Hello, everyone. My name is Hady Raphael, and tonight on the show, Rudy Camacho is traded to the Columbus Crew. Jonathan Sirois has a contract extension. Olivier Renard goes around and talks about the transfer market and the women's national team in hindsight by Eve Powell. That and a lot more on episode 143 of The Ball is Round. Yeah, okay. I messed up. I'm sorry. I messed up, guys. I forgot to say that Elias was the one covering Olivier Renard press conference today, and I said that Canadian women's national team will be covered by Eve Powell. So my apologies to you, my dear Elias.
Thank you very much. It's no worries though. No harm, no foul.
So hey guys, thanks a lot for joining me today. So Eve and Elias are here tonight with me. It's been a while that we weren't us three, so I'm happy that we're back together. Eve, how you've been?
Oh, well, as good as one can be when none of my teams are playing competitive soccer in the middle of summer. With a little bit lost, honestly, adrift, not sure what to do with my weekend and the nice weather. Yeah, kind of bummed. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I've been watching friendlies for
But friendlies are not. They're
Hey,
fine.
listen,
They're
I'm so happy to
fine.
see our new team, like Marseille's new team. So
But
I'm
fair
I'm
enough.
happy to be able because we had a very fruitful transfer market. So it was really nice to see all the new faces and seeing the young people because play the youth also in Marseille
Mm-hmm.
is important. And Elias, I'm pretty sure you're doing the same watching Barcelona's friendlies too, no?
Hey, Yamal is playing at 16 years old when I was, dreading the return of school at this time, at that age. So, hey, yeah, definitely playing the youth. And, it's Barcelona, right? They're a
It's their
factory.
motto.
So
It's
it's
their motto.
exactly. It's always nice to see good talent coming out of La Masia.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So moving on, let's go right ahead with our program. Of course, we don't have an extensive program today because, as Eve said, not one of our teams played this past week, and I think it's going to be the same the next week and the week after. But we're still going to have episodes because we have a lot to talk about. So first of all, let's talk about what happened with CF Montreal. Rudy Camacho, the general of our defense, was traded to the Columbus Crew. So it was announced on the 31st of July that it was Rudy Camacho was traded for 400,000 in general allocation money to the Columbus Crew, 200,000 for 2023, and another 200,000 in 2024. CF Montreal thanks Rudy for his 6 years of service to the club, said Vice President and Chief Sporting Officer Olivier Renard. We wish him success in this next chapter of his career. And then, of course, they just gave just a few highlights of Rudy Camacho with the team. Eve, were you surprised to see Rudy Camacho traded, and what are your thoughts on this trade?
I think I was a little bit surprised to see him traded in this transfer window. I don't think I would have been terribly surprised to see him depart at the end of this season. And I'm kind of curious, I guess, as to why, the receiving teams, because there was more than one team interested in him, were actually willing to spend some money, given that he would theoretically be free at the end of the season. So I found that to be a little bit interesting for sure. And as well, obviously, and I'm sure Elias, you'll speak a little bit more on this. He has been incredibly important to Montreal's defense as they kind of righted the ship from their disastrous start early in the season. And I think letting him go does, in fact, kind of signal that, it's not looking great for Montreal's playoff hopes this season. There are definitely young players coming up, but for somebody who could play that back three role as the center of the defense, Lozada has a few weeks, obviously, to work on alternative situations if he wants to, or alternative formations. But, for somebody who's been around with the club, I think has a lot of leadership on that back line, it does feel like a loss. Yeah.
Elias, I'll let you answer without, of course, talking about the Olivier Renard part because we'll talk about it a bit later.
Yeah. I was obviously disappointed because of how good he was, and he really did embody what was needed from that role, from that position. He dropped a couple stinkers at the beginning of the season. To be fair, everyone did, and it was nice to see that he had really, like you said, he had kind of rediscovered that form that made him so valuable last season. And you could tell that whenever he didn't play, there was a noticeable gap in the defense, both with and without the ball. So he kind of reasserted himself as that metronome, as that really strong presence in the back. And him leaving, I can only see this as them speaking with Rudy and going, look, and Camacho saying essentially that he doesn't intend to extend his contract, and them saying we can cash in even the little that we can get, which is why they listed the suitors. I'm sure that had he had an extra year on his contract, he would have gone for significantly higher. And the fact that Montreal are kind of, this is their last chance to get anything from Camacho should he not resign, that they pretty much just took what the best they can get. And obviously, they're not going to send him to Toronto as it's your main rival. So Columbus was obviously the easiest option. Reuniting with Wilfried Nancy is understandable why they were so enthusiastic. So I think that's kind of a win-win for both sides when you look at it.
Yeah, and you know what? I like the move because doing it right now has a better value than doing it at the end of the season. Because Evie said that he would be free. Like, yes, he would be free to sign a contract, but don't forget that the MLS rights would have been also already to Montreal. So, so the crew would have had to pay something to get the rights of the match before signing it. So,
that is true, but we know the rights of first refusal. If we look at that really weird transaction that went down in the West this week, those are definitely they tend to go for a whole lot less than $400,000 a game.
Exactly. So you would have traded the first right of refusal for maybe 100,000.
Yeah.
Now because of that, you're gaining 300,000 in a certain way. The only part where I don't really agree with you, Eve, is that I don't think it does anything to our playoff chances. I don't think that Camacho not being here is going to change anything to our hopes of making the playoffs or not. Because even with the team that we have, we can still make the 9th and the 10th, the 8th and then the 9th position, of the playoffs because the teams under the 7th position are not that good either. So I'm not really worried about playoffs.
They don't play in DC at least.
Exactly. And what I'm happy to say is that we're building for the future. And we said it, and I said it quite a few times here on The Ball is Round. This is a transition year. Next year will be the real year where Losada is going to be really judged. This year, it's just making sure we build a team that's going to be Losada's team in 2024. Give minutes to the youth. Make sure that the youth develop. And when they develop next year, they're not going to be youth anymore. They're going to be starters. They're going to be rotational players. They're going to be players that you count on. This year, it's not really players that you count on. You're just trying to see which ones are going to bloom in a certain way and make their way into the rotation of next year. That's the way I see it for 2023. And I still think we have the exact same percentage of making the playoffs with or without Rudy Camacho. Um, I don't think it
Interesting.
changes much. Um, we did have another announcement a
Hmm.
day after, so on the 1st of August, and that's the extension of Jonathan Sirois. And that I like a lot.
I like that a lot.
So I like the fact, first of all, that the way that it was announced, that first of all, homegrown player Jonathan Sirois signed 3-year contract extension for 2024,
Hmm.
2025, and 2026 seasons with an option year in 2027. Jonathan is the prototypical player reflecting that the club wants to produce within our academy, said Olivier Renard. He has followed the planned path, demonstrating patience, hard work, and the right mindset for the club. It is a well deserved contract extension. It is now up to him to continue his development. I love the few words that Olivier Renard chose. I love the fact that we're building around our local players, our
Hmm.
local talent. And also, I like the fact that we didn't wait to give that extension to Jonathan Sirois. I like the fact that, you know what? Right now, you deserve it. Right now, you're going to have the bucks. You're going to have whatever you deserve because you know what? And I think it's intelligent because at the end of the year, it would have been maybe even more expensive to extend him.
Yeah.
Right now, it's maybe a bit cheaper. So I think that's a very smart move for CF Montreal, but also for Jonathan Sirois. What do you think, Elias?
Yeah, I think that it's also a nice show of faith because this is his first long-term contract extension with the club. It was when he was getting loaned out. It was, it was 1 year increments. It was 1 year, 1.5, 1 year and a half. So this is the first real big show of faith. And he was called in. He was called into action in an extremely difficult time for the club and an extremely almost unfair position for him as a rookie coming into the team and having all this kind of thrust on him in the midst of an injury crisis and poor form, and he delivered. So it's nice to see that they're paying it back, and then some. And exactly like it says in the announcement, right? You play the youth, you support the youth, and more importantly, you keep the youth around when they're playing well, and you don't maybe just try and cash in on him and see if people want to bring him elsewhere overseas, and you focus on having him really take the mantle of starting keeper. So I think that again, both sides are very happy about this. He came into the season with a lot of confidence, but like very realistic expectations. He wasn't expecting to become the starting goalie. He wasn't expecting to become one of the top goalies in MLS, and then all of a sudden he was kind of in this position and he was playing at that level. So I think that with all that considered, he should be thrilled. I think the club should be thrilled. I think everybody involved in this deal is very happy right now.
Eve?
Yeah, I think this is also just not repeating the errors that were made with Max Crepeau.
Yeah.
Really, not that long ago,
That
if you
too.
think about it. Um, and to a certain degree as well, unfortunately, the way James Pantemis's time in Montreal has gone, a lot of which is just the worst luck in the history of time, as we've discussed on previous episodes. But no, I think locking in a really good, promising young keeper is a very important move. I think he's also become a crowd favorite at Stade Saputo, very much so. And yeah, there's nothing that I dislike about this move. Truly, I have nothing pessimistic to say on it.
Wow. Okay, that's you. That's you guys. Okay, I like that. And I want to add something about this. And we talked briefly about it. But against DC at one point, and that's what I love about the project of Olivier Renard, because I saw so many tweets saying, "Oh, I don't recognize my club. What are they doing? What is that project?" and everything. And I'm going to tell you what the project is. Against DC United, we saw it. We saw Jonathan Sirois on the pitch along Zachary Broguillard, Mathieu Chouanière, Samuel Piet, Jules-Anthony Vilsan, and Nathan Saliba. 6 players from Quebec here on the pitch. And if you want to count Canada, you have Joel Waterman also that was here too.
Mhm.
This is a project that the club wants wants to pursue. And you know what? I'm all behind this. I'm all behind this. This is what I want to see. This is I feel that I belong when I watch this club. Um, Trophies, you know what? If it waits 2, 3, 4 years for us to get trophies, because by developing those players, at one point they're going to get better and better, and the level of the academy is going to get better and better. I'm okay to wait for that time, as long as I know that my local talent is being showcased in a certain way, and that's exactly what we're seeing with that project, and I love it, love it, love it.
I would just add, like, I totally get where you're coming from. I do. I just think it is really important, and especially where we're just coming off discussing the Camacho trade. It's really important as you develop those young players and those local talents, with whom, like, the kids who come to the stadium can resonate and can maybe see themselves in their shoes a little bit one day. It is important to have veterans present in the squad to help them. And I think, like, when we look at the attack right now, and there is no veteran striker right now in the club for another few days anyway, and then we're not really sure what shape our veteran striker is going to come back in.
Yeah.
So I think it is still important to have a balance in your squad, even if your primary objective is to develop young players. It's to their detriment if you focus solely on having young players.
I agree, 100%. I agree. And right now, the veterans were supposed to be this year. We're supposed to be Camacho, Wanyama, Piet, and Kyoto. Like, those are the 4 veterans.
Yeah.
Camacho being gone, I think Joel Waterman is going to fill that hole.
He's going to have to.
He's going to have to be that veteran presence in the back. Samuel Piet will still be in the middle of the pitch. I think that Victor Wanyama's time with Montreal is almost at its end. That's my opinion.
Likewise.
And Olivier Renard said it in June that Romel Kyoto needs to fight for a new contract. So that's also going to be, if he doesn't come back in the best of his form, he's going to be gone too. So I know that the veteran presence is going to be replaced. I'm pretty sure. Olivier Renard is not stupid. He is a very good sporting director. He is very good. So let's trust him a bit more. But I agree with you, Yves, that when you look at the roster right now, you need to make sure that your veterans are there. But not only that, you need to make sure that your veterans are invested. And right now, I'm not really sure they are. Like Wanyama, Kyoto, I'm not really sure they are really invested in that project right now. What do you think, Elias?
Invested in this specific project? I mean, Wanyama didn't shy away from the fact that this new style of play was not in his wheelhouse. Same thing with Camacho at the beginning of the season. I think that someone like Romel Kyoto would love to play in this. The problem is, will he or will he not stay healthy? And I think that, the issue with his recovery the first time around at the beginning of the season, and now that he, again, is not recovering in Montreal, I don't know if people are being rubbed the wrong way. I don't think that the club is too happy with the fact that, their medical staff is being told, I'd much rather recover at home again. And it's taking that much longer than what was expected. At the same time, we haven't seen Victor Wanyama start in 3 consecutive games. And I think that, his exclusion against DC was most likely injury due to injury, but he was on the bench for 2 consecutive games. I don't think I don't think he's ever been on the bench for 2 consecutive games in Montreal. So it's clear that, I don't know if it's about motivation or about how connected they are to this philosophy, but it's very clear that the way that Losada is taking this club and the tactical direction that he's taking this club is in the wheelhouse of a lot of the younger players, because they are finding playing time and they're finding success too. It's not like they're just being given minutes and they're doing okay. They're doing well and they're doing their job very, very competently. So I understand why that can be a bit frustrating for some of the older players who maybe feel like they're more established. And you see someone like, Mahalo Poku, you see someone like Chantal Bissin who's getting all these all this hype and all this enthusiasm. And if you're Roman Kyoto who's staying at home, it's no longer, or it's not as much rather. When is Roman getting back? When is Roman getting back? When is Roman getting back? And more, I want to see these guys play. So, yeah, I think that the youth doing as well as they are in this, given the circumstances, can kind of be something that the veterans do have to take note of.
Yeah, and there's Robbie that says when they get better, they get sold.
Yep.
I don't really agree with that because do you think that Mathieu Chouanière is going to get sold? I doubt it very much.
Mathieu Chouanière, he doesn't qualify as a youth anymore, though, does he?
He's 25.
No, but he's 25. Yeah,
That's not a youth player. He's 24, actually.
Yeah, he's 24. Even better. For me,
even better for your argument.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, 24
at the same time
has 8 years in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like 8 years of play. So yeah, he's not 18. I agree, but like, do you think that someone like Mathieu Chouanière at 23 or other player at 23, 24 is gonna get traded? No. Ismaël Koné got traded because he was very, very young. He was 19 or 20. Yeah. 20. So okay. But the other players, they're not going to get traded and they're not going to get sold. If they're going to get sold, that means that a very good club is going to come for them. And then why not? When Celtic comes and asks for Alistair Johnston, you cannot say no, even if, because it's one of the best, if not the best club in Scotland. One of the best, because Rangers are very, very, very important too. So, like, it's important. Yes, you sell them. But it's visibility for the club. It's everything. So you want that to happen. But do you think that Montreal is going to accept an offer from a League Two club in France for $1 million for Mathieu Chouanière? Hell no. They're not going to accept it, for sure.
And as much as I love Mathieu Chouanière, and as much as so many people love Mathieu Chouanière, in Europe, midfielders like him are a dime a dozen.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
A box-to-box midfielder with a third lung that is, a lot of energy and that is relatively versatile, there's one in every club, right? Yeah. So I don't think teams are going to go out of their way to go, I want him.
Exactly.
Right.
And same,
especially if he was doing this at 18 years old and he was putting these performances at 18 years old, then that's a discussion.
That's something different.
But at 25, he's at 24, 25, he's much closer to a finished product. So I would be shocked if, with this consistent performance at this level, if European clubs come in and say,
now we don't. One second. It's very important that people understand that doesn't say we're not saying that Mathieu Chouanière cannot play in Europe. If he is signed in Europe, he would be very good. That's not a problem. But the European clubs are not going to come all the way to North America to sign a player that they can find in Europe already. That's already adapted. That's the only thing. But he has his place in European clubs. That's not a problem at all. Jonathan Sirois, I'm sorry, goalkeepers are never bought. It's very rare.
You have to be
when they are,
you have to be
exactly when they
like
are,
like a
hefty prices, or like right now Onana to Manchester United. Like it's very rare that you go to North America to find a goalkeeper, unless he wants to go and sign with Polish club.
That just happened last year though, because the Chicago Fire goalkeeper Gaga Slonina, he went for a hefty sum.
Yeah, but he was like 19.
He's very young. Yeah,
exactly. It's the same thing. Like, we're not talking. Jonathan Sirois is 22 now.
Yeah.
Oh, are you asking?
Yeah, I think 22.
I gotta check.
He's like 21.
You're the one that knows those stuff, Eve. It's not.
I usually do. I'm sorry. I was out in the sun a lot this weekend. My brain's a little fried. He's 20. Yeah, you're right. He's 22.
22. That doesn't mean that he's not going to be, maybe going to be sold, but the possibility that this happens is not going to be as great as for Ismaël Koné or for someone much younger. Same thing for Nathan Saliba. Same thing for those players. They're going to stay here. They're going to be part of the project. And they can be very good with the club and very good for MLS. So, it doesn't mean that every player that's going to be good for the club is going to be sold. It doesn't work that way. So let's wait and see. So very interesting. I think we can go ahead and talk about one of the questions that were asked to us, I think from Robbie.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Robbie's question. So Robbie has three questions. So first of all,
Oh,
what
can
does
we
Rhea?
save the
Yeah,
third question?
the
Sorry.
third question we'll leave it for the end.
Yeah.
But the first two, what does Rhea have to do to get out of the doghouse? Elias, start with this one.
I don't think he's in the doghouse per se. I just think that he's a victim of how saturated that his position is. Right now, Bryce Duke has hit a good run of form again. He's kind of simplified his game and he's doing better. And you have people like Michael Milovic and Ahmed Hamdi, who we're going to talk about later, who demand a hefty sum and who you have to kind of get something out of them. So I
to
think
kind of justify.
Exactly. And I think for Sean Reyes' case, it's more just a be patient and wait for opportunities. Because again, not everyone's going to be Jonathan Sirois, where you come in and you're outstanding because your player in your position got injured, and then you are, an all-star candidate, and everyone's chanting your name, right? Sean Reyes was in that position, but at the same time, the number 10 is a much more complicated position and one that's much more difficult to kind of ingrain yourself as the number one than a keeper. So, because yeah, if you're chanting Shwanya will want to go to Europe eventually. I mean, they all want to go to Europe, but it's nice to want. They just don't think it's going to happen. But in terms of Sean Rhea, I do think it's a patience thing. It's not really a doghouse thing. It's just that, he is the rookie on a team with a lot of number 10s, and he has to be patient and make the most of his scarce minutes.
I think he is in the doghouse. I agree with you still, Elias, that there's a lot of competition. At one point, he was getting the minutes, and now he's not anymore. And he did.
Wasn't there a comment, though, made by Lozada? Something to the... Sorry, Hady, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, you're right. There was a comment from Lozada.
Regarding his... I don't recall if it was a question of attitude. I'm not 100% sure, but it was a question of something.
Training. Attitude and training. He said he needs to prove it in training too. So he's young. He was very happy with the amount of minutes that Sean Rhea was getting, but he said also that he needs to prove in training that he can overcome. He needs to have the right attitude and everything, and that's normal. It's part of the learning curve of a young player. It's really it's the normal. At one point, he's gonna get out of the doghouse, and we'll talk about it. At one point, maybe Lozada will not have a choice but to get him out of the doghouse. Pretty sure we're gonna talk about it a bit later. But yeah, no, I'm not really worried about Sean Rhea if he sticks around with the club. If he goes to an obscure club in Europe, then he won't play with Lozada. If you want to go to a mid-table club in Serbia, go ahead. I'm pretty sure someone will sign him in Europe. But for me, you're taking the long route, where in MLS right now there's a whole hype around MLS, and maybe it's better for you to wait and to, maybe learn a thing or two, and get minutes in the MLS where there's a lot of hype now with Messi, with all the stuff going around and everything. Anything to add on this subject, Eve? Because I asked Elias, but I didn't ask you.
No.
Second question from Robbie then.
Okay, just one sec.
What is your three? If he stays with a 3 on the back, who are your 3? Eve, you want to start?
I vote no 3 at all, but I guess in this scenario I have to pick 3.
No choice.
Okay, so Joel.
But I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be a back 3 anymore.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Okay, so I will put myself through this exercise and torture just for our dear listener Robbie. Joel Waterman on the right, because he doesn't want to play center long term. Therefore, I don't think he's a long term solution. In the middle. Oh God. In the middle. Maybe Gabriela Corbo. He seems pretty versatile. I've liked him on the left. I've liked him on the right. So maybe he can he can take one for the team and play in the middle, even though I don't think that's the best use of him. And then on the left, obviously, there's a lot of options for defenders who could play on the left, and that's kind of also why I'm kind of shoving Gabriela Corbo a little bit into the middle. Because I think there is even more of a saturation at that position when we think about Robert Thorkelson, when we think about young Alvarez, who has just come in, and George Campbell, who is a versatile defender as well. I think Alvarez, it's far too early in his development for him to be considered a starter. Thorkelson, I know recently he was nursing an injury, and he just seems to kind of just constantly be on the periphery anyway. So then kind of, I think, even though he has kind of fallen into obscurity after a couple of really calamitous performances, a part of me says it would almost be George Campbell on the left.
Okay. Elias?
I am in the same boat as Eve, except I'm switching George Campbell and Joel Waterman for one reason.
You're going to make Joel Waterman play in the middle?
Oh, no.
You're meaner than I am.
I'm going to make Joel Waterman play on the left and then make George Campbell play on the right, because both of them have said how much they don't like playing on the left. But when the team needs you to do something, you do it. Right?
Sure.
So I understand that that's not your preferred position. I understand that you don't love it. But at the same time, until Alvarez gets brought up to speed and Losada is confident that he can be used, or until Torkelson shows something that, we haven't seen yet, that's really all you've got. I think Gabriel Corbo has the right technical quality and the right defensive, the composure needed to be essential, the middle of that back three. I don't think anybody else in the team can come close to that now that Camacho's gone. And remember, last year he was being groomed in that position. Last year, whenever Camacho wouldn't play, he would be the one that played in the middle of the back three. Granted, he wasn't as good as Camacho, but that was also a whole extra year of, immersing yourself, becoming comfortable with your defensive partners, with the keeper, with the midfield. So I think he's going to become, I think he's going to slot in much more comfortably than people will think or would expect. And, George Campbell, I think the reason I'm putting him on the right instead of Joel Waterman is because I think that Joel Waterman is better on the ball. I think that he can make more out of that discomfort of the left center back position than George Campbell, who really, so far at least, has shown that unless he's playing right center back, he really struggles. He played in the middle and he was a problem. He played on the left and he really wasn't as effective as you could hope, which means that I'm fine having him on the right, and Joel Waterman at 80% instead of 100% comfort in a position is still something I'm willing to deal with for the rest of the season at least.
Wow, it's funny because we have three different back three. I just want to say one thing. I feel that Alvarez is going to be the center of the back three at one point, not right now. And I agree with Eve; it's too early. From what I watched a few clips, not long. Like I didn't watch a few games, but clips of Alvarez, switching the ball from one side to the other, and he seems very comfortable in a back three, in the middle of a back three. So I think that down the line it's going to be him. But we talked about leadership. We talked about a veteran presence, and I feel that Joel Waterman needs to show the way. So for me, Joel Waterman should be in the middle of the back three, even if he doesn't want to. So I use the same sentence that you used, Elias, with the left hand side. But for me, he has to be in the middle. He's the most. He makes the most sense in the middle of the back three. If I look at it, you want to be the veteran, you want to be the leader, you want to be the general. You need to take one for the team and go in the middle of the back three. I love Gabriela Corbo on the left, and I think it's very hard to find left center back as effective as Gabriel Corbo. And for me, George Campbell will be on the right because, as Elias said, I think that's where he's most comfortable. And I think he can be very good because whenever he goes up with the ball, usually, good things can happen. To learn when to go up and when not to go up. But I think that will be my back three. It will be Waterman in the middle, Campbell on the right, and Corbo on the left.
Okay,
So,
fair enough.
So
three
we all
different-
agree on who should be there, but just not what the order is.
Exactly.
exactly
Yeah.
the same three, but not sure which position they'll be. So it's interesting. It's just
Yeah.
I think we're all waiting for Hernan Lozada, but I think even I have said that we don't really think it's going to be a back three anymore. Do you agree, Elias?
I think that he's setting it up to not be a back three, to be a back four. The thing
Yes
is, I
or
don't know if he's going
no?
to do it this year. I don't know if he's doing it. I don't know if he's taking advantage of the 3 weeks to do it, or if he's just going to wait for the off season, right? I think that they've already gotten enough of a tactical shakeup at the beginning of the year. They're just getting it now, so scrapping the whole thing again would be maybe a bit too
So
much. I think they're going to wait until the end of the season and
So
focus on
yes,
the off
but you're
season to get a
shy.
whole. Yes, but I'm shy. Yes, but I'm shy. That's the right
Exactly.
way to put it.
No, but I agree
The
with you.
least
It's
committed yes
possible.
you've ever seen in your life.
No, but I think it's possible also that they wait until the end of the season. But I think that the future of the club goes with the back four again. So yeah, it's maybe going to be now or it's going to be next year. We'll see. Let's wait and see. Let's go ahead right away for the Olivier Renard press conference. Elias, you were there,
Yes.
so you're the one that's going to present it and run the show.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Yeah, I mean it's an Olivier Renard press conference, so it's always a bit like dealing with a politician. He's very good at not answering questions he doesn't want to answer, but he did also have a lot to say about the current state of events because the transfer window did close, and even if you can sign, even though you can sign free agents and stuff like that, inter MLS trades are done, and as far as an MLS perspective, your team is pretty much locked in, and Olivier Renard is very okay with that because he said that they're starting to work from the sporting director side. Him and Vasily Kremazidis are looking towards next season now. They're focusing on what is needed in the off season. They're looking what is needed to kind of elevate this team in 2024. I asked him what he wanted, what was on his laundry list that he maybe did not get done, and that he maybe is looking towards next season to reinforce. Everybody says left back. Everyone, especially if they're going to play back four. I want to know what you two think about. Besides a left back, what is the absolute most important thing that this team needs?
Oh, can I go?
What did he answer?
His
First?
hand
What did he
shot
answer?
up. He answered, "Oh well, there's a lot of things that's important, and there's a lot of things that needs to be considered. But we're focusing on
yeah.
It's a classic Olivier Renard answer, but he didn't make me feel stupid about asking it, which is the least I could ask from.
Okay, so he wasn't.
But yes, his hand shot up the second I said. So
he didn't give you. He didn't give you the Thierry Henry answer when
no,
he insulted you right
stares
away.
you down.
Okay, no. Go ahead, Eve. Go ahead.
Striker. They need striker. 100%. 100 million, 1,000%. Like it's not even a question. No, but they need a veteran
that there's
striker.
So many strikers and so many different kinds besides veteran. What kind of profile of a striker do you think they need?
So obviously it needs to be a player who is going to be able to have a really strong work rate because that is what Lozada's current system demands. TBD if obviously the formation changes a lot. It's also going, for me, I think a huge, even beyond tactical, for me, it's so much about the leadership because there are so many, yes, there are a bajillion strikers in the squad right now, but they're all young or inexperienced or coming back from really difficult times, being laid off from injury upon injury. So they need somebody who can really guide them and can really set the example as to what it means to perform as a striker in a MLS team. So, when I think about the profile of a striker who, I'm trying to think of, other players in MLS. I can't necessarily think of a player who exists right now who I would qualify as a veteran, short of a DP, obviously, that could come in. And I think obviously we can safely say that's not going to happen, whether it's 2024 or not. I can't think of like an existing player who I could name in MLS who would fit the mold, because I would typically say Ramel Kyoto should fit that mold, but obviously relationship between the club and Kyoto is, I think, a little bit questionable. I'm not super convinced we're going to see him next year. So in that case, then a replacement veteran striker needs to come in to help show the way.
I'm
I'm
not
gonna
in the
try and think.
same boat. I'm not in the
Okay.
same boat.
You're willing to put up with another season, and like I understand there'll be a year more mature and stuff, but you're willing to do another season with O4 and Opoku and Vilsan coming in from time to time.
100%.
Oh boy.
And Ibrahim and all those players and Opoku, since he came, has been amazing. I love what he's bringing to the club. I think he still doesn't understand, Lozada's tactical shape and everything, but every time he has the ball, something happens, and I really love it. Ofor, is he going to improve or not? We're not really sure. What's really nice about him is that he can hold up the ball really well, so that's something that you can use. So he's able to, back up, no, back to the, when he has his back to the goal, he's able to get the ball and just wait for the block to come up. I think that's a pretty good thing to have, and his heading abilities are really good. He's always winning, balls in the air. So I think you have something to do there. Sunusi, maybe his future is not in Montreal anymore because of Opoku being here, which is for me is a big upgrade on Sunusi. But we have what we need as strikers right now. What we don't have is a number 10. What we don't have is a maestro. What we don't have is that player that's not a leader only in the dressing room, but a leader on the pitch.
Speaking of the congested position.
But one second. The one that's I'm going there. The one that's going to be able to give that through ball, give that great cross, score some goals, create something out of thin air. That's what you need, and I'm pretty sure it's going to come a bit later in what Elias is going to tell us about the press conference. We know that Amdi and Matko days are counted, right? So for me, losing those two players, you can replace them with a very, very good number 10. And I'm going to tell you something.
I had no idea where this was going.
You're a fan of Olympique de Marseille.
Where is this going, Hady?
You have
no idea where you're going with this.
Named Dimitri Payet that's free right now. That's 36 and wants to play for a couple of more years. That wants to play in a couple.
That's the youth, Hady. That's not the youth. I know.
Veteran presence among all the youth. I would take Dimitri Payet because Sean Rea, Bryce Duke are going to learn so much from him.
Yeah, I agree.
So much from him. So even if he comes on the pitch for 20 or 30 minutes for the next 2 years, I would take him.
I feel like though.
I would take him 100%.
I think it could be an interesting signing for sure, but I think he would want. I'm fairly confident that he would likely want to be a DP, and
but you don't need a big DP. You don't need that DP that's gonna make 10 millions a year. Like I'm pretty sure he will accept for 1.5, 2 millions a year. I don't think he's gonna accept more. He just got a hefty contract with Marseille. Right now, what he wants is to play. And he could have stayed with Marseille. He could have stayed. He had a contract until 2024, the end of 2024. And he decided to leave because the president came and told him, listen, you're not going to play anymore. We don't need you. So he's like, okay, I think that I still have enough in me to play a couple more seasons. And the club also offered him, a position within the club, within the
like the technical staff,
the technical staff and everything. And he said, not right now, but I'll come back later. I saw his press conference, very, very emotional. But whatever, just to let you know, I said, Payet, it could be anybody else, a number 10, someone that's able to show Bryce Duke, show Sean Rea what you need to do in order to progress and become that great, playmaker.
But we're both on the same page, at least, that it has to be a veteran presence. Like, it has to be somebody established.
100%. That I agree with you. 100%.
Okay.
Because
then.
I feel that Camacho leaving, Kyoto going because I don't think he's going to be re-signed.
That spinal column is...
and Wanyama leaving, you're going to need someone in the middle that has that veteran presence.
Exactly. Completely agree.
Yeah.
I have one requirement for the player that they sign. I think we're all in agreement that's an offensive player because for obvious reasons. But I have one requirement, and it's only one. And it's someone that can hit the paint off the ball. Because the only thing that we see that I have not seen in honestly months. I mean, you can count Bryce Duke's goal, but there's no shooting with consistent danger from distance, which means teams are more than happy to kind of sit back in a low block. Whether it's a striker, whether it's a 10, it needs someone that the second the ball is within 6 feet of them, there is an immediate danger. From anywhere within 30 yards, there's an immediate danger because if you let him pick his head up and pick his corner, you're done. Anybody like that is the only requirement. I don't have anybody specific in mind. That is the one requirement that I think this team desperately needs, because whenever the team gets the ball in and around that 30-meter area, teams are looking to defend passes and not shots. They'll give you all the time in the world if you want to shoot, but they'll cut off passing ones. And if you have someone like Georgi Mihailovic, who was a threat from deep,
and you know what? And that's why we saw dangerous. Yeah, and that's why we saw Bryce Duke taking more shots, and that's the right mindset to have.
Yeah,
in that midfield. I want to answer Sam. He has a Sam Savvy, ex-host of The Ball Is Round. He said, "I really like 04 in terms of his effort and his heart, but his first touch is ridiculously poor. Either Rosada tweaks his idea in terms of build-up to exclude 04 from it, or push him deeper." I completely agree with you. I think he's been
followed it up with.
Or we continue losing the ball cheaply in midfield. I completely agree with you. I think he is gonna tweak things up in those 3 weeks, and I'm very interested to know what's gonna happen. I don't know if anyone wants to add something on a comment of Sam.
No. I think we've talked a lot about what 04 has and doesn't have, and I think we've all been pretty unanimous on the tragic first touch. We did just get a couple other comments.
Yeah, but there's also forwards on the team that can drop deep and still push the defense, right? We've seen it with Mason Toy. We've seen it even with Sunusi, who when he drops deep links up well. So the thing is, having someone that can post up on a defender is nice, but that really isn't the only thing that's needed, because other people can do that.
God, no.
Maybe not as well. They could do that, and they can
bring more dimension. Yeah,
exactly. So Chinozo 04 has his strong suits, but it's definitely not enough to give him a starting spot.
Yeah, and we have a couple more comments. Go ahead, Eve.
Yeah. So Tate, I think he's Team Hady on this one. Opoku has been very good. Matthew B appears to be also Team Hady once again. Payet will help on free kick and corner.
Matthew
Gabriel De Corbo, free kick taker.
Matthew understands me, and he wants to sing, "We've got Payet. We've got Payet."
Okay, you're jinxing it. You know that. You know how I feel about you, like.
Me singing?
No. You know how I feel about you, like, when you, like, sometimes when we're conversing when a match is going on and you mention, like, oh yeah, they're gonna win or something like that, and I'm like, don't do it, you're gonna jinx it. And so I feel like you singing is very similar. Oh, maybe it's manifesting. In hindsight, I may or may not have manifested a new job. Therefore,
there you go, right?
Okay,
you just gotta manifest.
Maybe that's manifesting. I think it's jinxing though. It makes me nervous, so don't do that.
No, but we'll see. Listen, I doubt very much that CF Montreal will sign Payet.
It
I
would,
think it would be a good
yeah.
thing. Yep. So let's wait and see what's going to happen. Do you have
And
any other comments?
no
Nothing.
comments either on your singing abilities. So
Okay, good,
you
good.
escaped
Not
unscathed.
yet. Not yet. Where's Gail when we need her?
All right.
Go ahead, Elias. We had other things that Olivier Renard
Yeah,
said.
so I mean, again, whenever Olivier Renard makes an appearance from the media, it's there's a wide variety of topics that he covers, and another big one was the budget, right? Because the fact that, look, at the end of the day, right now more people are there's been more high profile departures than there has been arrivals when you look at the balance sheet,
Yeah.
and it's a mix of the project but also the budget. And he kind of talked about this in twofold. First of all, the project that he was entrusted in at both in Liège and Antwerp in Belgium was to kind of bring in relatively unknown young players and develop them, because you find almost this needle in a haystack type searching, where this diamond in the rough rather is a more apt description, where you can kind of find the right thing, develop them, and then have them either become a strong contributor to your team, or you sell them for significant profit. Both of those things have happened with Olivier Renard. If you look at Ismail Kone and Alistair Johnston and Georgi Mihailovic, who all left, but you also have someone like Mason Toy who arrived from Minnesota and now all of a sudden is starting to show his quality. Um,
Hmm.
Robbie
Sorry,
commented
Elias.
your
Sorry,
post just
I'm
ordered.
just cramped up because Robbie
Robbie
just
just
said earplug
Alas.
disorders. So you don't want to hear my singing anymore, Robbie. Okay, no problem, no problem. But yeah,
so
sorry about that,
I,
Elias.
I think we have the power to mute people. So whenever we see Hadi
I
getting ready
do.
to sing,
I got it. Fear not.
mute button. Um,
I got
so
it. I'm
yeah,
ready for
I
you to use
sang
it.
twice on the borders round. Once was I'm blue, and the second one is now.
that's
So
true.
yeah.
This is becoming a really a
I
worrying
was, uh,
trend now. We
I
have
was
to
gonna
stomp this
say,
out as fast as possible.
just to be clear, we do remain a sports podcast.
Yeah,
But yes,
but
so
no,
the
yeah.
requirement of this project is
Yep.
is twofold, because it's not just the willingness to do this, but it's also on the budgetary side, and the fact
Hmm.
that at the end of the day, Olivier Renard is doing what he can with the money he's given.
Yes.
Now, it's not a concern, and this is something that I kind of differ with a lot of people that you see on social media and a lot of the people talking about the club, where I'm not concerned about how much money is being spent on the players.
Me neither.
I'm concerned on the reasoning behind this.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you have all this money coming in, and you're going to have money coming in for the next like 3 years with the three big transfers that we mentioned in terms of Georgia Mihailovic,
Yeah.
Ismail Kone, and Alistair Johnson. You're going to have around 15-20 million dollars coming in now. My
Hmm.
problem is not that they're not being spent on players. My problem is I don't know what they're being spent on. These payments,
Yeah.
this money. Are you investing it in the academy? Are you investing it in your facilities? Are you investing it in staff? What is this money going towards? Because you can't just get these payments over the course of time, and there's no tangible, significant change. It's not like you're getting $1 million for a player that's going to play somewhere else. You are making
Hmm.
this is a multi-million-dollar income at this point. And
Hmm.
if you're going to be a club that wants to make a habit of this, you have to have some sort of plan. So
Yep.
I want to know from both of you, Heidi first, what is with this money coming in, why haven't we seen anything? But also, what do you want to see change most? Do you want to see players? Do you want to see facilities? What is the biggest upgrade you think that the club should turn their head towards?
Okay. There's too many things that I want to say, and too many things that I'm gonna try to be as brief as possible. Okay. First of all, unfortunately, the money that's coming in, if they're not made available to Olivier Renard, unfortunately, Olivier Renard cannot do anything with it. Okay, let's not speculate on where the money's going. Uh, I have my ideas, and I just don't want to dwell on it because right now, Olivier Renard is telling us this is the money that we have. Okay,
Mhm.
so I don't really want to go there. I don't want to know where the money is because it's only going to be speculation. Is it Joey Saputo putting it in his pockets? Is it Joey Saputo, trying to make up for all the years, the two pandemic years where he lost so much money?
Which is Tate's guess, kind of.
Exactly, exactly. Or is it because they want to build a new stadium? Is it? We don't know. We don't know. So let's not speculate on that. All I know right now, what I want to know and what I want to see, Olivier Renard has been great with Antwerp, with Standard Liège, at finding great players to invest on. We
Mhm.
haven't seen that right now with CF Montreal yet.
In
We've seen that
MLS.
exactly. We've
We've
seen
seen that in
that
MLS.
within MLS, and that's for me. Thank God we have Vasily Kremendidis also. I know that it's a duo working with Olivier
Mhm.
Renard and Vasily to get those players. I'm not gonna give all the success to Vasily because it's not true. Olivier Renard saw the tapes also and agreed with Vasily. I'm pretty sure Vasily gave quite a few names, and maybe Olivier Renard didn't want to sign everybody that Vasily proposed. So it's a tandem that worked together and were successful within
Mhm.
MLS. What Olivier Renard is supposed to bring to the table is those international signings. And right now, I was willing to wait and to give time to those players that came in.
Mhm.
And right now, we haven't seen any return on investment. Now, it's hard, I understand. But you've made so many good moves for Antwerp and for Standard Liège. Why not us? So if I have something to say to Olivier Renard is that, you know what? Just bring me one player from international player that's going to come and do something for us.
Mhm.
And right now we haven't seen that. I hope that it's going to be Alvarez. I have a very good feeling about him,
Mhm.
but I don't want to jinx it. Let's wait and see.
Thank you.
For the rest, you know, I'm very disappointed in Hamdi. I'm very disappointed. I'm even more disappointed in Miljevic because for me, Hamdi, it's kind of it's kind of explainable in a certain way because he didn't speak the language. He was, he had a lot of injuries and everything. You know what? And it happens. You know what? Forget about Hamdi. Miljevic, I can't understand. I just can't. Like, no, I don't accept it at all.
Well, we have just a question from Twitter.
Yeah,
That we got from Samuel actually.
From Sam, wasn't it? Was it Sam?
yeah,
It
it's not.
was, yes.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. So it's
At
from
what
Sam. It goes, at
point?
what point does a player stop being a project? We talk about Corbo and Sirois as established yet young players, but Matko and Hamdi are still projects. Is a project in our CFMT Montreal world starting to slowly become a pejorative term? Thoughts? And
Oh,
also,
Sam.
yeah, and also Simple Guy, I believe, added
Yeah,
Lassie
I
to
have
this
it here.
equation, right? I would
Yeah.
add Lassie to this. To you mentioned he's been here 3 years, and outside a 10-game stretch last year, he was creating opportunities. Where he's creating opportunities, he's been a bust. Now, these three, I mean, Olivier Renard did mention it. He didn't throw them under the bus, obviously, but he did say that for the money that they're being paid, it is very
Mhm.
clearly not at the level required.
Of course.
What do you think
Mhm.
that, because like we said, Olivier Renard knows what he's doing and he's done it in Belgium with success. Why do you think the players that he's finding aren't necessarily taking in MLS? Because a lot of the inter MLS trades have gone off without a hitch, but whether it's a DP, whether it's an international signing, it just doesn't seem to take. What's the
Oh,
biggest
the
thing
I
DP,
think
the
I signed a
DP,
that
DP outside of Wanyama.
Wanyama, and
Is
Wanyama
it?
has been
I mean,
great for CF Montreal.
Bjorn Janssen is Bjorn
Oh, but
Janssen
that's
was
like,
brought in.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
it's a
yeah. I
hidden
forgot about
DP.
that
It's not a
one.
DP. It's a hidden
That's the
DP. Right?
thing, right? Because of the two DPs that were in the club in the last 3 years, one has been
No,
an
there's
incredible
three.
success.
No, and Georgi
Who's a good-
Mihailovic has been a great. He was a DP.
He
Georgi
was a young
Mihailovic
DP,
was a
wasn't he?
DP.
Georgia
Yeah,
Mihailovic.
he was a young DP. Yeah, he was a young DP.
Really?
Yes, my friend.
I can't recall if it was in both seasons though or not.
No, second season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the second season. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
But
Yes.
that is again an interim MLS acquisition,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
of everyone coming from having come from Europe, having come from international spots, Victor Wanyama is obviously has been a tremendous success, but
Yeah.
it kind of stopped there in the
I agree.
Olivier Renard era.
Yeah.
Again, Rudy Camacho, who did come from France, but other than that,
But
so
that's Remy Gard.
Yeah.
That's not Olivier Renard.
And that was like a
What
long
do you
time in the
think-
making.
yeah. What do you think, Eve, is being looked at, and why do you think these players are just not seeming to take or settle into MLS life?
I mean, and certainly a couple of these players when they came over, they kind of came over when it was really hard for Montreal. They were still playing not at home. I think like the year Hamdi arrived here, he didn't even go to Montreal. He probably just went straight to Miami. I don't know, maybe he stopped in Montreal, but it was when they were set up outside, and so I'm sure adjustment wasn't very easy for a player like him. Along with, of course, the factors that you mentioned, Hady. But that being said, it's hard to explain because we do see on other MLS teams, relative unknowns come in and acclimate and develop. So, a part of me asks sort of what sort of structure is in place for these players outside of training.
Yeah, but I think it's beforehand. I think that Olivier Renard
Like the preparation?
he doesn't have the scouting network, the appropriate scouting network.
Okay.
I feel that Olivier Renard is the only one that watch tapes. He has a big network of agents that he knows. They propose players, he watches tapes, and then he decides. He doesn't have that support that he had in Liège, that he had in Antwerp, where he had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 scouts, where he would say, you know what, go watch 5 games of this players. Go watch 10 games of this player.
Or like, go find me a central defender.
Go find me a central defender. I feel that he's alone doing that. We all know that we don't have a scouting structure right now. And I feel that's the reason why we're not finding any success in international transfers.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah. And you know what? And if we don't start on having some sort of structure in our scouting department, then
just use GAM forever.
It's going to be harder and harder to find that needle in the haystack, like you said a bit earlier, Elias.
Well, actually, with that's something that Canal spoke about with some of this GAM trickery that I'm sure the lawyers looked at and everything. Almost all of the Alvarez signings transfer fee has been basically refunded between the money that is owed to them from other teams and the sale of Rudy Camacho that is almost completely accounted for. That $1 million that was reportedly the transfer fee.
Okay.
So that's very interesting. But do you think, kind of looping back to my first question, do you think that with the money that is coming into the club right now, a scouting network, if it's not going to be spent on players, a scouting network in Europe is something that should be the priority?
I don't know if it has to be in Europe necessarily, but a scouting network, period.
I agree with Eve.
Yeah.
Whatever, like build something somewhere.
Yes.
As simple as that. Right now, it's becoming so simple to discuss and to have communications with people that are not based in Montreal. So they can have a scout based in Belgium. They can have a scout based in Switzerland, a scout based in Scandinavia, a scouts based in Eastern Europe. And they don't need to be there full time. Like, just, hire them as part-timers and just, contracts. Like, give him a contract. Listen, I need a DC. I need a central defender. I need a striker. I need
like this
number
profile.
10. Find me this. You have 30 hours. This is the amount that I pay you. Just go find me names. And, and give that same assignment to 10 scouts across the world. And then get those things And then Olivier Renard will do his magic by watching the tapes and everything. And I'm pretty sure we get better success. Is he doing that? I'm not sure. I'm not even sure that if it's doable in a certain way, but I'm pretty sure we can find something and something similar or something that can be done within the laws of the game. So I don't know. I don't know, but something needs to be done on the scouting part. Pretty sure.
Yeah, we never did answer Sam's question though. Is project being considered a pejorative term?
Oh, right now with the CF Montreal community, yes, it is.
Yeah.
But I don't agree. Project should be Alvarez is a project.
Yeah.
You know, there are some projects that are working, and most of the projects that are working are within MLS.
Yep.
Or within the academy, because Nathan Saliba is a project and it's working. Sean Rea is a project and it's working. Jonathan Sirois is a project and it's working. So should it be used as a pejorative term? No, but I understand why it is.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I will close this Olivier Renard segment with one sentiment that he kind of said that I found was very interesting, and I kind of want to get your take on it. Get both of your takes on it. He said the primary goal is not to win this year, at least. Is not to win MLS Cup. It was never to win MLS Cup, but to win every game. And yeah, that was my reaction to Evo. Just a little bit of an eyebrow raise, like, I mean,
my eyebrows are out of control. Yeah.
What do you think about that kind of idea, and what does it say about how this team is setting up for next year? Which is because remember, Wilfried Nancy did not make the playoffs his first year with a team that he was fully in control, but then he got to completely take the reins, and then all of a sudden it was the best regular season in club history.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that that's going to happen with Hernando Sada, but what do you make from their idea going into this year as being not necessarily throwaway, but just win the game?
I kind of worry a little bit that, like, and I think we've discussed it a couple of times, under this model of, finding young unknown players and developing them. And there is going to obviously be a lot of coming and going and transition. I kind of worry that, like, kind of statements like that are going to turn off a lot of, say, more casual spectators. And they might say, oh, well, like, this is going to be Montreal's off year. So, I'm not going to be as interested in them. And we'll kind of wait for the players to mature a little. And then, oh, okay, we should be in for a good season down the road. So it kind of like, you kind of have to be made of really tough stuff, I feel. And you have to have like a really genuine interest in the game to adhere to this. I'm using the French word because I can't think of the English word offhand. To kind of putting up with, if you will, a lot of transition years, as it was stated. I don't know if that was the verbatim term or not, because I only caught bits and pieces. But
no, he didn't use transition. That's
okay.
That's
it's kind of the implied.
That's
okay.
what I use.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right on. No, okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, I appreciate his transparency at the end of the day, I guess, and yeah.
Hady,
I kind of get what he was saying, even if I don't like the way it was communicated, because he could have been a bit more transparent in his communication. What I think he was saying is that we need to make sure we have enough on the pitch to win every game, and not enough pieces within the roster to win everything until the MLS Cup. Like, if you look at LAFC, okay, when they won the cup, they had very good players. They had franchise players, but they also had those extra pieces of players like Gareth Bale, like those extra pieces, because Gareth Bale wasn't the franchise player.
No,
Gareth Bale was here
for
to
half
just
a season,
put the ball at in the back of the net when the pressure was really, really high.
Yep.
And that was his role, and he did that to the perfection. Okay. everybody thought that Gareth Bale was going to come here and score 30 goals. It didn't happen because he didn't have it in him. But he scored the most important goal in the season. And that's what you need when you're building a team for MLS Cup. You need to fill every kind of profile within that roster. Olivier Renard doesn't have that luxury right now. He doesn't have the money. He doesn't have the structure in order to build for an MLS Cup. Right now, what he needs to think is that I need to have enough profiles, enough talent on the pitch to be able to have a chance of winning every game. And that's how I understand it when he says it. I understand it that right now, I need to make sure that we have enough quality to win games, because I cannot aim for higher than that. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's kind of a downer. Like no matter what, like, you know what I mean? No, it's realistic. Like it's completely realistic, and I appreciate it. But at the same time, I think it'd be nice to have loftier ambitions. But it's not realistic in this climate for the.
But I also feel like it's a very North American thing to say, like, if there's no silverware, then the season was useless. There are clubs, when it comes to soccer, there are clubs in the world that have not won a trophy in decades, but that's not the marker of a successful season for them.
And it's funny because, I'm hearing Eve, and she's a Wolves fan. So
they got promoted, and they made it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, every year, are you following Wolves because they're going to win Premier League? No. So why are you following them, right? Like, why are you a fan of the Wolves? Why am I?
We've gone through the story.
Why am I a fan of Marseille? Yes, Marseille was a great team back then, but right now they're never gonna compete for the Ligue 1 title. And if they do, it's gonna be on an off year. So I'm a fan of the club because I have an emotional attachment to that club due to many different things. I cannot talk about Elias because Elias is another league. But but
I have my struggles too.
Yeah, please don't talk to me about struggles. You don't know what the struggle is. You don't know what the struggle is. So all I'm saying is, at the end of the day, last year, CF Montreal finished second, and I think the emotions that we felt were so positive.
Yeah.
Even if they lost against New York City FC, I loved our season last year. I loved it. I loved it. Even if we didn't win anything.
Yeah.
I really loved it. So give me seasons like 2022 every year. I'm super happy. I'm super happy, even if we don't have any silverware. Of course, please don't catch me wrong. If we win silverware, I'm going to be very happy. But am I following a club just because of silverware? No, I'm not. I'm following a club because it represents who I am, and it shows a project that I want to adhere to. If I'm using the same term as Eve.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Eve.
I can respect that.
Eve wants to move on to the next subject.
I'm so keen to talk about the Women's World Cup.
So, Elias, I think we covered.
Yes, so that's those are the highlights of Olivier Renard's press conference. But I'm also in the same boat as Eve, because this World Cup has been awesome for the bits that I've been able to stay up and to watch live and everything
Cup
else I've been watched
left, right, and center.
Exactly. So let's talk about the Women's World Cup. Eve, you have that covered for us. There's so much to talk about. I know that last week we said, let's wait one more week. Let's wait one more week. Let's wait one more week. So it's a week later. Go ahead. What do you have for us?
So obviously last week, Hady, it was just you and I on Monday. And, that was the same day that Canada went out very unceremoniously to the hosts Australia, and there were a couple of topics that you had brought up, and I was like, I'm not ready for this. I can't emotionally handle it. And so we said that we would postpone until this week. And kind of glad almost that we did, because I mean, we have come to see even more upsets in the interim since since Canada's elimination. So, let's kind of go ahead.
It's like when you fail an exam and then you realize all your friends failed too. So you're like, oh my God, yay. I'm
not familiar with that. I was like a really keen student. I'm not familiar with that sentiment.
Okay, well, we're not all smart like you, Eve. Some of us struggle in class.
Oh, man,
I'm so sorry.
It's solidarity in misery, right? I think that a lot of Canadian fans are like, hey, well, at least everyone else had a shit thing too.
We're all
Eve, sometimes you can just laugh and just not say those stuff, right?
Maybe.
But
anyway,
I love the comment of Chan, and I completely agree with him. I don't know if you want to read it out loud by Eve.
I was actually really funny. I woke up this morning to a text from the Holy Grail.
Nice.
with a similar sentiment.
It's always a good day when USA lose. I completely agree with you, Chan. Completely agree.
Yeah. All right. So the Women's World Cup. So, ever since Canada was eliminated on Monday, we've seen several nations that are typically considered to be top nations in women's football also make a pretty shocking exit. So not only Canada, but now Germany, Brazil, South Korea, Italy, and I think you always give the hosts a leg up, and New Zealand are also eliminated. So definitely all those teams went out of the group stage as
China
well.
Too.
China, yeah. No, that's true. China is up there, yeah. So we can include China for sure. And of course, we saw the U.S. Make their earliest ever exit in the World Cup today, losing on penalties to Sweden in the round of 16. So we've had a lot of shock and upset at this World Cup, and honestly, for me, a lot of days, 6 days after the fact, like I think kind of it's really interesting to take a look at what's changed, what's made this World Cup so different compared to previous editions. And so, Christine Sinclair, right off the pitch, right after the match, she said in a post-match interview, I think you're just going to continue to see teams reach our level, surpass us, whatever you want to call it, if things don't change. And that sentiment has really been echoed by a lot of soccer media, particularly that, other nations are quote unquote catching up to the perennial favorites, all the more so with the U.S., the current holders, being knocked out today. So I want to ask both of you, what do you make? Do you make of this that other nations are in fact catching up to the perennial favorites, or what's up?
Go ahead, Elias.
It's I think it's a bit of both, right? Because we've seen this, okay. we saw it to a lesser degree on the men's side, but I think the fact that women's soccer all around the world is growing so much quicker than the men's game, because the men's game has not plateaued, but it's as big as it's going to get, right? But the women's game is improving, and so many countries now are not just bringing forward national team programs, but like we talked about in previous episodes, their own domestic leagues, right? So all this attention towards women's soccer and all this money only means that other teams that used to be afterthoughts, or they used to be, where you would brush them off and you'd mark it down as like a 7-0 win and it's goal differential, right? Are now becoming teams that, may not necessarily win, but will definitely give you a headache. And so I think that we're going to see, I think that, the comments made by a lot of these players, and not just Canadian players, I think, a lot of the teams that were surprised and eliminated early have players that have come out and said, this is not going to be a one-off, and this is not going to be any kind of surprise. So I'm really happy to see that this is the level that other teams are that the top 20 are obviously very, very strong, but then you see teams that are ranked 40th and 50th and 60th in the world that are, you saw it. Nigeria beat Australia 100%, on merit. They put together a very strong group stage, and they're through to the next round because of that. So absolutely, again, it's bittersweet because of the fact that Canada was on the receiving end of one of these upsets. But I'm also thrilled because it's indicative of just how much the women's game has grown since the Olympics in Tokyo, let alone the last World Cup.
Yeah, no, very much so. Hady?
Yeah, and for all the people that say that it's money and there's so much money in England and in Mexico and everything, it's not about money. It's about having a league. It's as
And
simple as that. It's
yeah.
not about money. It's not about money because when you see, Elias talk about Nigeria. Don't tell me that Nigeria has more money than Canada.
Nigeria was in a very similar situation with their federation.
Worse, they've been
Yeah.
in this situation for maybe 10 years right now.
Mm-hmm.
So don't tell me about Nigeria. Don't tell me about South Africa that qualified and beat Italy and qualified for the next round. Morocco, so it's not about money. It's about making sure that those players have a place to play within their country, making sure they have a club to evolve professionally, making sure they have a structure in place that helps their development. And we talked about it so many times here.
Yeah.
So many times here. So I get very emotional when I talk about this subject, and maybe Robbie will need these earplugs right now. But like honestly,
Start singing.
no, I'm not gonna sing.
Okay.
But
Oh,
no,
God.
he's gonna need his earplugs because I'm gonna start yelling.
Okay.
I'm so upset. No, but no,
I'm
I
done.
like shit.
I
Now,
got you.
I'm so upset. I'm so upset because we need to make sure that the money is well spent within Canada. We need to make sure that the women's game grow. And that's exactly what we need to do. We're, 8 years late? 6 to 8 years late?
Yeah. At
It's
least.
not too late yet. It's not too late yet. But it needs to happen now. It needs to happen now. We have Project 8 coming.
Yeah.
Please, investors, start showing up. We are here. We are here. The media, underground media, let's call us underground media because we're not the media. We are underground media. We're an independent podcast. We talked about the women's soccer since we first started in 2019. So we are here. Just give us more to talk about. And we are going to talk about it because that's how important it is for the growth of our sport. It's as simple as that. We are here.
Excellent. Excellent. Well put, Hady. Well put. So, you mentioned obviously Project 8 is coming down the line. Of course, it's not scheduled, unfortunately, to start until 2025. And we need to kind of look in the short term because there's some very important matches coming for Canada before even Project 8 is going to be in its nascent stages of actually functioning as a league. So looking ahead, Hady, you had asked me a question last week that I was not prepared to answer at the time, and that was, should Bev Priestman remain in her role? So I had several days to reflect on it. I have my opinion. I looked around. So I'm going to give my opinion, if that's all right, and then I'll turn it over to the both of you.
Of course. Go ahead.
So I think when we talked last week, I kind of, said that if John Herdman is being given the level of latitude that he's being given with the men's team, I really struggle to imagine Bev Priestman losing her role with the women's team, given that she did also enjoy, the great success of the Olympic gold medal, which is really the most significant prize we've taken home ever in soccer. So I don't think she is going to lose her role. However, I think there are very serious questions that need to be asked of her, particularly from a squad selection standpoint, because it does feel like there are certain players who it just kind of felt like they were an automatic name on the team sheet, whether or not they were in the best shape to play, whether or not they were in the best form to play, and whether or not they necessarily corresponded with what we could reasonably expect that the opposition was going to put into place. Like, for example, the low block of Nigeria, not having enough dynamism in your midfield to and I understand Jesse Fleming was injured, but aside from that, not having enough creativity in a very, very talented squad to penetrate that, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think she needs to face a lot of questions. And for me, the Jamaica matches are going to be do or die for her. If those, God forbid, don't go well, she's out. 100%, 100%.
Oh,
But I think she,
that would be shocking. That would be
yeah.
shocking.
Yeah.
But I mean, Jamaica's going to be,
And Jamaica is qualified, huh, by the way. Yeah, they're
yeah,
qualified in the World Cup to the next round.
yes, yes, they
Yeah.
are. So, and I think, you know, even if they do get ejected in the, or, you know, get eliminated, sorry, from the World Cup in the round of 16, for me, they're going to be coming in on a way bigger high to their matches against Canada than Canada is going to be. Because Canada is, you know, devastated by this early exit, whereas Jamaica is, you know, riding a historical moment for them. So, you know, for me, it's really concerning looking at that, and I think Bev Priestman has a lot of serious questions to answer between now and September when those matches take off. But Elias, maybe I'll let you speak first. Is Bev Priestman the right woman for the job come September?
He hates those
Questions like this give me anxiety.
That's all good. It's me. It's like the hypothetical questions in me. So
crashing out of the group stage. Look, you drew the comparison to John Herdman, and crashing out of the group stage is still not as bad as what we saw at the Gold Cup. From purely a coaching standpoint, yes, I understand that Bev Priestman had the choice and didn't have to leave anybody go play, let anybody, you know, give them rest to go play in Europe. That was Bev Priestman's strongest squad, if you will. But from a purely managerial standpoint, right? You kind of you said it all, right? If John Herdman's being given this leeway after, look, with all the respect, dropping a stinker at the World Cup and then dropping an even bigger stinker in the Gold Cup, then there's no reason Bev Priestman should have any kind of worry about her job right now. But similar to John Herdman, the onus is now on her to kind of prove that she is right for this team going forward.
Yeah.
Because you know, you are arguably this Canadian golden generation that we had that won multiple Olympic medals is now, you know, slowly is turning over, and there's you know, there's a lot of youth and there's a lot of energy, but there's also a lot of quality that I find was underutilized, massively underutilized, especially going forward. So I think that, yeah, she has some pressure on her job. I don't think she's anywhere near the pressure that John Herdman currently has on his job. But yeah, I think that, again, God forbid, something as I won't say humiliating because I find that disrespectful to Jamaica, but as shocking as a loss there, then it's an entirely different situation.
Yeah.
But based purely on, you know, her performance at the World Cup, I do think that she has to now prove that she's the right person for the job rather than just be like, oh yeah, she's good for it.
Yeah.
But I still think that she's nowhere near being fired.
Fair enough. Hady? Anything
else? I don't think she's going to be fired. That's for sure. And we talked about it last week. So
you were gung ho for you had a feeling though. Yeah.
I want her to be fired, but she's not going to be fired. I want her to be fired because for me, you didn't utilize your roster the way you should have utilized it. It's as simple as that. You know. And for me, you know, we can point out John Herdman and she made exactly the same kind of mistakes that John Herdman made during, you know, and Canada should have been among, like, it's I'm still shocked about that. Like, I'm sorry, but like, Nigeria has no place to be in the next round. They're good, but we're talking about Canada. We're talking about a team that has so many good players in so many great clubs around the world. You know, Nigeria has what, 1, 2 players that, like, it's not understandable for me. So yeah, if you want to compare Herdman and Priestman, we gave leeway to Herdman, so we should give it to Priestman and maybe give it to whoever now. I think Mike Vitulano now is taking the team, the U15 in the CONCACAF Championship. Let's give him leeway too, and let's give leeway to everybody, you know. So and nothing's going to change. So at one point, you know, you need to draw a line, and I don't know where it's going to be, but I think that losing against Jamaica, if we do against Jamaica,
like the next day, that would have to be the headline.
I would be so upset because no decisions were taken beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Like losing against Jamaica for me is not enough for Beth Priestman to keep her job. It's for me it should be a simple and normal task to win against Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
Canada has to be in the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's just not
Agree.
normal. Like for me, it's not. Oh, you know what? But she qualified for the Olympics. Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah,
That's
no, I
not
agree with you.
So let's wait and see what's gonna
Okay.
happen. But I'm still not impressed with Beth Friesman at all. Not at
Fair enough.
all.
Fair enough. And Robbie does remind you, I think this is probably the ball is round.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
ball is on.
Yep. Very
Anything can
true.
happen.
Very true. So I guess looking at, because let's face it, we could dwell here on
Yeah.
Canada's suffering, and if anybody wants to listen to us dwell, that could be Monday's
No.
episode. I will refer you there, please and
Yeah.
thank you. I don't want to do that again. So I guess my question to you is, aside from Bev Priestman, we can't necessarily control which players are and are not available at the time of a major competition, when it comes to things like injury. But going forward for the next competitions that Canada will participate in, and I'm not even including the Olympics yet because you know me and my fear of jinxes, but looking towards the next major competitions where Canada will play, whatever they may be, what needs to be done beyond just the coaching side of things to prevent a similar scenario from playing out that we saw at this World Cup? Hady, any thoughts?
Change of guard. It's as simple as
Yeah.
that. We talked about it quite a few times. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, Sophie Schmidt did well. Yes, Alicia Chapman did well. Yes, Christine Sinclair is the GOAT, but their time is not it's not now anymore. It's as simple as that. And same thing, you need to shuffle things around. If Simia Woodrow needs to start, Simia Woodrow needs to start.
Yeah.
If Clarissa Larisi needs to start, if India must be up front, if Jordan Heidema is not doing her job, like at one point we need to change the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we failed to do. So change the status quo. Yes, we thought that Jordan Heidemann was going to be the next Christine Sinclair. She's clearly not. So let's move on from that idea and try something else.
Mm-hmm. And maybe I could segue that to a question to Elias. Elias, looking towards the Jamaica matches, which are coming like sooner than we think, really. I mean, we're less than 2 months away
Yeah,
from the
they're
first
creeping
one.
up on you. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Would you start with the changing of the guard for these upcoming important qualifier do or die matches, or would you rely on the team that has done a lot for Canada over the year? Would you call a similar roster to the World Cup, or would you call a way more new faces?
I don't know about way more new faces. I
Mm-hmm.
do think that it's a healthy mix of changing the guard and sticking with the
Mm-hmm.
with the people that got you to this level. Because
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, yes, I think that in hindsight there could have been some different additions and subtractions to the squad overall, but the best 11 are in that group.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's more about sending a message in terms of the overall squad selection than it is about the individual then like the squad selection of the 24 people or whatever. So
Yep.
I think that I'd like to see some bold changes and some bold additions. But the most important thing is, especially from a Beth Priestman standpoint, is has she learned from her mistakes? And from the group, have they taken the experience of the World Cup? Especially a lot of people that where this is their first World Cup as starters or as key figures in this group. Do you take this experience and do you learn on it? Do you improve on it? Do you take something away from it that will then enable you to become not just a better national team player, but a better national team as a whole?
Yeah.
So I think that that's the biggest thing, because again, these should be positive results and they should get by Jamaica. But I'm more interested in how they do that. I'm more interested in what the takeaways are from this World Cup and if it's actually successfully applied. And that's far more important to me than, any kind of squad selection is this
Right,
mentality
okay.
and this takeaway.
Fair enough. Anything to add, Hady?
No.
Perfect. All right, so we did have a question from Robbie that came in related to the
Yeah.
Women's World Cup. So if I may, he asks, who are you picking to win the Women's World Cup? And I do have the bracket after today's matches, or whatever date it is in Australia.
Yeah.
So right now we do have 2 of the quarterfinalists decided, with Spain and the Netherlands, as well as Japan and Sweden. Then we have Australia, Denmark, France, Morocco, England, Nigeria, Colombia, and Jamaica all remaining. So based on the teams that remain and just kind of the outline of the bracket, Hady, who's your favorite?
Okay, I'm gonna give you my favorite, and then I'm gonna explain something else after. My favorite is Japan.
Mm-hmm.
As simple as that. They're my number one. The thing is, I think that their biggest challenge will be Sweden, because they need to know how to win against a very defensive team like Sweden, and that's something that I don't think they've been able to do. So I think that's going to be their big test. But if I'm not choosing one team, I would choose one side.
Okay.
In a way, if you look at the brackets, that side of Japan, Netherlands, Sweden, and Spain, the winner is going to come from there. It's going to be one of those 4. I don't see anybody winning from the other side, but that's my opinion. But Japan for me is the favorite.
Japan is an excellent team, for sure, 100%.
4-0 against Spain, they won. 4-0 against Spain.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And for Spain to make the final, they'd have to beat Japan again.
Exactly.
Or they'd have to beat Japan for the first time, I should say.
If Japan wins against Sweden.
Yes.
And that's, I think, the biggest hurdle for Japan.
Yeah. No, I agree. Sweden can defend their way. It's what they say, defense wins the trophies, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Those championships. Yeah.
Yep. Elias, who are you picking to win now?
I agree with Hady that it will come from the left side of the bracket, and I'm torn between 2 teams. I'm torn between Sweden, for the exact reason that Hady just said, is that defense wins championships, and Spain. That may be a bit of personal bias, but besides the Japan game, I don't know what you're talking about. They have been shot out of a cannon. They've been, besides Japan, they've been in the kind of soccer they're playing. And the way they're going about it is incredible. And when it gets to the nitty gritty end of a tournament where familiarity is everything, and all these Spanish players are so familiar with one another, and they've played in La Liga, they've played a lot of them on the same team. That is so undervalued in national team competitions, where most teams have a makeup of many different leagues, and Spain is one of those few teams at a consistent high level. I think we both know that the 4-0 was
an anomaly.
That is the right word, because I'm trying to find the most diplomatic word to describe.
I didn't hear the word. I didn't hear the word. You got cut off.
An anomaly.
Okay.
I do think that Sweden is probably my biggest pick, because I just think that they're so tough to break down, and they're so
well. I mean, that's how they got to the Olympic final.
Like that's how they've been there before. That's another thing.
Exactly.
But Spain is just so fun to watch, and they're so strong that they cannot be ignored.
Fair enough.
Sorry, but Miyazawa is just out of this world. So
she's excellent for sure. But
so yeah, it's as simple as that. So we'll see, but it's gonna be, I think, very, very interesting. But Eve, I'm very curious to know your thoughts.
It's gonna be a tug of war game. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna be contrarian. I'm gonna like throw a name out there randomly, so yeah, Robbie is also Team Hady once again. Japan is his pick. I'm gonna say England. For me, the right side of the bracket has an easy route to the final for several of the teams there. So I could see England beating Nigeria. I could see them beating the winner of Colombia versus Jamaica quite handily, even though they have been dealt with some injury blows for sure. Looking at Lauren James, I mean, she has just exploded onto the scene in this World Cup. Then, whoever they would face in the hypothetical semifinal, Australia, Denmark, France, or Morocco, I think they could beat France. I think they could beat any of the other three as well. I think France would be the stiffest competition for them. And then in the final, I mean, they're also riding the momentum of winning the Euro. So they have that excitement. They have that final mentality, that recent experience. And so I'm gonna say England.
We're not going to hear the end of it if England wins. We're not going to hear the end of it.
I love to say "told you so."
not only from Eve, but from all the English fans. So no, but yeah, very, very interesting choice. And you know what? It does make sense. It makes a lot of sense. They have so much quality, England, so much quality. But the thing is, I think they have Australia, and I think it's going to be pretty tough to beat.
I think that I would love to see that match. I would love for that match to happen. I think it would be a super hot match to watch.
It would be a semifinal too. So
yeah, exactly.
That could be
so
a
much
great
on the line.
semifinal to watch. So let's wait and see. But Australia will need to win against Denmark and France to go through, because I don't think Morocco will beat France, and England.
That is tall order, yeah.
Yeah, and England, Nigeria, Colombia, and Jamaica.
They should make short work of any of those three.
Yeah, I think it could be, they should be in the semifinals unless, something very shocking happens. So let's wait and see. It's
already been a very shocking World Cup, so.
Yeah,
exactly. 100%. Exactly. We're over here like picking our favorites, and who knows, maybe this is Jamaica's year.
Yeah, so we're going to go very fast with our social media. Yeah. So let's go ahead. It's going to be very, very fast because...
lightning round.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Yes. The floor is yours.
So this is from Leo Velasquez, Guzman Carujo, Coco Jean, Will Sands, Dylan Barrero, Adam Armour, Bertrame, and Brandon Bai. These are all within the last year. And I'm only counting severe season-ending injuries, but you also have soft tissue injuries that can be attributed to turf. Injuries on grass is only Chicharito. This is in reference to just how bad some of the turfs in MLS are and just how many injuries are happening. Mm-hmm. We've been over this a million bajillion times. This conversation is had every single time that death trap called Gillette Stadium takes out another player. Should the league start not only should the league start mandating it, but should they penalize teams whose surface is not only not good enough, but actively dangerous at this point?
To penalize them, I think, is a bit extreme, because it's a question of infrastructure in a lot of these scenarios where it's a shared stadium situation, and obviously for some teams it's really hard to acquire ground to build your own soccer specific stadium.
I don't think that was. I think the question was like to make sure that at least if it's turf, that's quality turf.
Oh yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay, I misunderstood. My bad.
No, don't worry.
Yeah, no. I mean, there has to be a certain standard, and when we look at the teams that share with other teams or other sports leagues, or even like those that allow the use of their field for like rental purposes for other sporting events. I think when you look at like the amount of money that is spent on some of these MLS players, some of the salaries that they bring in, some of the visibility that they bring, it's kind of a travesty to have them playing on such subpar fields and risking their health and quality. And for some of them, it could literally be career ending. And we've seen that happen before in this league, as a matter of fact. So, I completely agree that some of the turf that we do have in MLS is incredibly problematic, and kind of blows my mind that they still play on it.
Yeah. And if you think that Messi is playing on that death trap in New England, you are outside of your mind. So
that'll be interesting.
And I just want to say, Montreal did a great job by, with their new turf at the Olympic Stadium. It's really beautiful. So
anything was going to be better.
Yeah, but still, it's still beautiful. It's quality turf.
Yes.
So, that could be made in New England. I think, as Yves said, so many good players are within that squad. So I'm pretty sure they have a couple of millions to just, change the turf there. So
Well,
I
I
don't know.
mean, on
It
top of
doesn't
that,
cost that
a lot
much.
of the
So.
owners, a lot of the owners of the stadiums are NFL owners, and
Yeah,
they are worth billions. So
exactly.
you're telling me you can't shovel out a couple million to redo your turf?
It's not even millions. I think it's 500K at most.
Then
So let's
I
move
don't
this
know.
on.
point, at this point, it's becoming negligent instead of just like, I don't have to, I won't change it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's criminal.
let's move on with the next tweet.
Yes,
Rich
this is
Laverty.
from Rich Laverty. Germany second, Canada seventh, Brazil eighth, China 14th, Italy 16th, Korea Republic 17th. 5 top 20 ranked sides all out in the group stage. Morocco 72nd, South Africa 54th, Jamaica 43rd, Nigeria 40th, all through to the second round.
Mhm.
Yeah, we talked about that. So
We talked about
yeah.
this, but does it make you feel a little bit better
Yeah.
seeing the company that Canada has?
Oh yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Or
Well, kind of.
why doesn't it make you feel better, Heidi?
because I don't care about the others. I care about us. We should not be in that list. It's as simple as that. I don't care about the others.
I will just say that, like, several days after the fact, I am excited to see that the field is becoming a lot more diverse, because that means, I think, more interesting opposition for Canada in other competitions going forward, rather than just the same, like, small circle. So that excites me from an objective, like, many days removed standpoint. But overall, yeah, general pissed off sentiment for me.
Also, if Canada managed to actually win, they'd be in a really good spot because they'd be on that side of the bracket, which is, I think we all agreed, is the easier side of the bracket, which is also kind of just painful.
Indeed.
Thank you for reminding us. Next.
Oh, yeah.
Lord Hughes. As you can see, this is the final goal line call.
That was crazy.
That was wild.
I want this reminded me of the World Cup in Qatar with the goal from Japan, where it was ruled inbound. It was the opposite. It was ruled inbounds by, the
That
width
much.
of
1 millimeter.
Yeah.
grass. And are you in favor of this, or is it something that you feel like it's taking too much of a role
I like
in
it.
deciding games?
I like it too.
I think it's so important to see it. I
Yeah.
think it's critical to see it because it's one of those black and white. It's over the line. It isn't over the line. And using your eyeballs, it's virtually impossible to tell. But at least here, like, you have technology or science, if you will, that proves it. So for me, this is good.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Eve. Nothing to add. I know you don't, but I like it. I know Elias doesn't like that.
I have beef
Elias
with
is
offside.
furious.
This is not offside. This is
Okay. Okay.
we're not going to open that can of worms because we'll be
No, we're not opening this at all.
All right.
Moving on next week.
Moving on, yes. This is from Renato Sosua. CF Montreal has communicated with a representative of Romel Kyoto that they have received a formal offer for the transfer of the Honduran player to the Liga MX club FC Juarez. Currently, Kyoto has a value of 2 million according to Transfer Market, 2 million euros according to Transfer Market. The decision next week will be decisive for his future. We also have a question in the chat from Josue Zabala. What do you guys think about this potential move, given that we were kind of talking about how the Romel Kyoto era may end at the end of his contract?
I just want to specify it's not an official communique from CF Montreal. It's just a rumor. We're not really sure. There's no sources. There's nothing behind it. I just want to say that. But Eve, I'll let you start with it.
I would just say I did recently see an update this evening from a journalist in Montreal, Jeremy Filosa. If you are listening for Montreal purposes, I'm sure you know who that is.
Everybody knows who Filosa is.
Well, it could be somebody who's listening for the women's national team purposes.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, who indicated that that rumor was in fact false. I think he mentioned in a tweet that he published this evening that he had spoken with Kyoto's agent, and it was a non-issue, I guess, for want of a better way to put it, as of right now, anyway.
Good to know. But if this in case was true, you know what? He's not playing, and I don't think he's needed in the next a few years. We're talking about a new cycle. I don't think he's needed, and he doesn't seem very invested in the project of the club. So you know what? Yeah, if we have an offer, why not? If we don't have an offer, his contract is done at the end of the year. So either way, bye bye.
True that.
Very
All
true.
right. Next up.
And this is yes, this last tweet. This
Yay.
is from CF Montréal. Bravo les filles. So the girls, the women's academy won La Coupe du Québec, another trophy that they won also the regular season title. So yes, so very good
Love
job.
that.
Congratulations, CF Montreal winning silverware. We love to see that. Yeah, it was more just a congratulations.
Yep.
I don't
No,
really have a question
always
for you guys or any
happy.
kind of discussion topic. Just
Yep.
yay and good job, because I didn't really get too much traction that they were even in the final. But good job, and we are super proud of you. And
Yeah. No,
you go
excellent
girls.
news.
Yes.
Very happy. Very happy.
All right.
Good. So that's it. I think for social media, I think that was nice. We managed to finish exactly on the dot at 9:30. I know that everybody wants to go watch, or some people want to go watch Inter Miami play. So that's it for today. Thanks a lot for being here. Don't forget, we do have a Patreon page if you want to help us grow the product. And see you next week for another episode of The Ball is Wrong.